A very good afternoon to our viewers and welcome to the 1873 TV. My name is Tinashe Mpasiri, and this afternoon on the 1873 TV, we bring you yet another exciting and insightful and informative show on Shabhani Mashaba Mines SMM Special Part 15. This afternoon, we will be looking at the parliamentary debates and basically the topic for this afternoon, Chinamasa lied before Pali. And as the listener or the viewer, you can judge for yourself. So we'll be going through one of the parliamentary transcripts, which is available on the 1873 Facebook page, where we are also streaming live. If you also want to go through what we'll be reading along. Joining me in the discussion happens to be Mr. Mutumwa Mawere. Mr. Mawere, a very good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I had an interesting discussion that we'll be looking at this afternoon, considering that we have come to just have a background of the acquisition of the Shabhani Mashaba mines, which was not at all acquired using a government guarantee as alleged by then Minister of Justice and Legal Parliamentary Affairs, Honorable Patrick Chinamasa. And this afternoon, we're looking at other facts also that individuals can also look at and be able to judge for themselves whether Chinamasa lied before Pali, and they can be able to determine for themselves if this individual, this minister called Chinamasa, is worthy to be a public office bearer, to be an individual who is vested with the people's power.
Yeah, I think before we talk about vesting, whether he should be minister or not, I think maybe the facts that were presented to Parliament, I think in 2005, the question is what were the facts and what was represented, whether the two tally. If they don't, then I think obviously we can ask the public to make a judgment for themselves, and then we can then deal with the factual side without favor or prejudice on the party involved. He is the Minister of Finance right now, and the question is, was he possessed with the correct information when he responded to questions in Parliament? And what were the questions that were posed to him in Parliament? I think that's maybe one of the areas that we may be able to look at. Yeah.
So this is the official report and revised Zimbabwe Parliamentary Debates, Volume 32, Number 16, Wednesday, 20th July 2005. The contents basically oral answers to questions without notice, and the motion was economic challenges facing Zimbabwe. Mr. Speaker, so they can. So basically, on the first page, it states on the 12th or 20th July 2005, oral answers to questions. Mr. Speaker, so they can be recorded as part of the record of procedures of the day. Questions without notice were interrupted by Mr. Speaker in terms of Standing Order number 33. Oral answers to questions with notice. State indebted Insolvent Companies Act. I, Mr. Sikala, asked the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs whether he was aware that the State Indebted Insolvent Companies Act breaches the constitutional provision on property rights. And if so, what corrective measures he intends to take, especially in the light of the fate of Shabhani Mashaba mines. The Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs, that is Honorable Chinamasa, I can state categorically that the reconstruction of state Debted Insolvent Companies Act, the Reconstruction Act, does not breach the property rights enshrined under our Constitution. The
So
Constitution.
maybe we can stop there. The question is he aware that the State Indebted Insolvent Companies Act breaches the constitutional provision on property rights? As a Minister of Justice, could he have been aware?
He's the Minister of Justice, and he is one individual who is basically should be aware, considering that he is to protect, promote, and uphold the Constitution.
Okay, so when you are dealing with the state indebted insolvent companies, it means you are creating a new class of companies in a constitutional state. Which means if you are indebted to this company, which is state company, then your rights have been subordinated by virtue of that, the operation of this act.
Yes.
So the minister, even without going anywhere, would have known that the existence of this act on the face of it offends the Constitution. Because the Constitution is based on equality, on a Bill of Rights, that we are all equal before the law. This law says a company that is deemed to be state has special privileges and rights, which makes it a superior company. If it's a creditor, it makes it a creditor in its own class, whereas the law that applies to all makes all creditors equal, all debtors equal, and the debtor and creditor are equal before the law. Because I can't go to the court when you have already assumed the superior status. The president does not have the powers to make himself above the law. He still operates within. If the president became angry and decided to shoot you, I don't believe that that act would result in a nullity. Then what does Chinamasa say? I can state categorically that the Reconstruction of State Indebted Insolvent Companies Act does not breach the property rights enshrined under our Constitution. Because the effect of the Reconstruction Act is to permit the minister, as a member of the executive, to appoint an administrator to remove the directors who are supposed to protect the company, and in their place, appoint an administrator without any court involvement. Then he says the constitutionality or otherwise of a piece of legislation or an administrative action is determined by our Supreme Court in terms of the Constitution. But he was asking him to give his own determination whether an act of this nature conforms or is consistent with the limitations imposed on government by the Constitution. That members of government must promote and must protect the rights of citizens, including companies. There is a presumption of constitutionality in the interpretation of our legislation, and such legislation is presumed to be constitutional until declared otherwise by the Supreme Court. He is now passing the buck to the Supreme Court. But the author of this, when the idea of putting this into motion came up, the Supreme Court was not involved. Murder is murder. I can't go to the Supreme Court to determine whether the loss of life is loss of life. The facts may support something else. It may be culpable homicide, it may be murder. But intrinsically, there is loss of life. And there's loss of property. Because the person who has access yesterday to his company no longer has access by virtue of the operation of this law. He then goes on to state, according to the Reconstruction Act referred by Honorable Scala, is constitutional until the Supreme Court rules otherwise. So he said, although I'm not going to comment, but I can tell you categorically it's not. But the court has got the final say. Ordinarily, for a person would know that I can't, if something is wrong, it's wrong. It's wrong. Ab initio, it doesn't have to be given the assistance by the court. But he's saying we rule by law. If that law is not challenged, it means it's okay. Whether it harms you or not, it doesn't matter. To my knowledge, SMM has not filed a constitutional challenge of the reconstruction order. But for it to file, it must seek the permission of what? Of the court. Or of the administrator. It's the administrator. Huh? How can the same company that has been invaded have rights that are acceptable?
Now, this is very interesting, Mr. Mawere.
Yeah.
In the sense that here we find the minister appointing an administrator. He had already orchestrated his game plan, knowing that once he removes the directors and administrators, they cannot be this action whereby SMM can actually file a constitutional.
It can't even approach any court.
Yes.
The board required to authorize has been dismissed.
Yes.
By the administrator appointed by the same minister. There's Tawanda Nyarala, he says, is the other guy paying attention? I guess the other guy is national.
What does he refer to when he states is the other guy paying attention?
Tawanda, if you are paying attention, please tell us. Okay. So, which are issued on the 6th of 2004. Instead, they've filed an application in the High Court seeking the setting aside of the reconstruction order. I think you have, Clive says, Mangwele, I think you have to keep referring to the headline. Okay. This is the reconstruction order issued by the minister, and he said it was challenged. I'm therefore at a loss to Honorable Scala's bold assertion that regarding the breaching of Section 16 of the then Constitution, providing for the right to protection of property. For the record, there's nothing that the Minister of Justice should do vis-a-vis the said corrective measures, especially bear in mind that the Reconstruction Act is constitutional. It is difficult to understand what corrective measures he wants the Minister of Justice to take in view of the following. Number A.
Okay, can I just watch them, Mr. Mawere? For the benefit of those who are watching from the Zimbabwe Today Facebook page, who have no access to this document that we are going through, you can actually go to the 1873 TV Facebook page.
In fact, you can actually write.
So that you can access that. And
you can write
for your convenience, we are also posting a link to where the document is available.
Yeah, just say the document is available here. Number A, SMM was at 6 September 2004 indebted to the state in the sum of Zimbabwe dollar 115 billion and to other creditors to the tune of 22 billion Zimbabwe dollars and was unable to pay the debt. Again, the Minister of Justice ordinarily would not have that information. He's not an officer of the company. The company has no relationship with him or with his Department of State. Yet, he's an expert. It was overwhelmed by debts, with debts, to the extent that banks could no longer lend it, while trade creditors and suppliers had ceased dealing with it for non-payment. Business had ground to a halt, and government was forced to pay off the creditors. Again, this is forced by who? The fact nobody, we've seen his affidavit. He presents no fact that would support this aversion that the company was hopelessly indebted and the company would not pay if called upon to pay. But he has taken it upon himself to be the representative of the company. He has already taken a view that the shareholder must go. Hashtag shareholder must fall. And therefore, everything that I do is consistent with that objective. All this was caused by the externalization now of SMM foreign earnings of 18.5 million by South African companies owned by Mutuma Mawere. Today you were talking about ownership.
Yes, Mr. Mawere.
Yeah. What was the nature of your discussion on radio?
On radio, we were basically talking about ownership as far as property is concerned. And on the financial literacy show, it was actually pertaining to ownership in the terms that if an individual acquires property by way of mortgage, who actually owns that particular property? Is it the individual who has purchased or the bank that is financing?
Do you agree that shares are property?
Shares are definitely property.
Okay. So do you agree that the right to shares and the relationship between a holder of shares and a company does not amount to what Chinamasa is talking about? The fact that the shares may be held by me does not change the legal standing and status of those companies.
Absolutely.
Yet he throws the fact that the companies are owned. Again, does Chinamasa understand what the rights of shareholder are and what shareholders are not? Does he have an understanding that shareholders are, the relationship is limited by shares?
Definitely. And
we will then deal with who own those companies. I think Clive Mangwere, Mr. Mawere, can you also just touch on how Zim can market to the diaspora market? Because it's hard to do business back at home or participate in the economy when there is no reliable platform. You understand the challenges. How do you advise we do this? It seems the government is very keen on engaging foreigners while leaving its citizens scattered abroad who have a real interest in Zimbabwe. Again, I think, Clive, if you follow what we're talking about, and then you put yourself in the shoes of this minister, he is saying that he sees no evil in a law that is being used against a black person. Imagine the same facts of SMM had white characters. It was a movie. Do you think Chinamasa would have gone beyond the perimeter of the law to manufacture a new law, knowingly that this law serves no public interest? Then you in the diaspora, you are worried, I think rightly so, about future events without understanding the current events. This law that we are talking about, that Chinamasa is saying is constitutional, is there for you. You can Google, just Google under, or you can Bing it or whatever, search it. Under the Reconstruction of State Indebted Insolvent Companies Act, send it to your lawyer, to your advisor, and say, please look at this law and tell me whether laws of this nature are laws that will be permitted to exist in the countries where you are resident. If this law is given a clean bill of health by the people where you are living, then please do tell us. Because what stops investment is laws of this nature. Chinamasa follows. He said SMM faced imminent closure, not closure, imminent in his mind. He was breathed with this imminence, and he alone could determine the imminent test. How do you determine imminent? That Clive, you are about to die, and the doctor is Chinamasa. How many people have been deemed to be dead or close to death, yet they live for years? In this case, Chinamasa says, I'm the judge, jury, and executioner. And I know, as Minister of Justice, I don't know what source of information, except maybe Peter Moy and the people who captured the company and called the shareholder who they were working under a direction, that he is the criminal. He doesn't deserve to be my father. He doesn't deserve to be a shareholder. Then let me finish him. This is what you get. So Chinamasa is now the determinant of what imminent is. As Minister of Justice, it could not repay trade creditors. If it could not pay its creditors, where would Chinamasa come into the mix?
No way in the day-to-day running of a business.
If I can't pay, the trade creditor is recourse. The trade creditor, so affected, has the right to approach any law, any court of law, to assert his rights. And in this case, nothing of the sort takes place. Then B, SMM was placed under reconstruction in terms of the said Reconstruction Act. As we know, when SMM was placed under reconstruction, there was no law.
Yes.
This was done outside the perimeter of the law. So this takes place. And Chinamasa is saying that there was an act with a view to rebuilding it and ensuring it returned to its viable status through a proposed scheme of reconstruction. Rebuilding that which is not yours and ensuring that it returns to viability status, something that is not yours. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Today is 2017. Is the mine operating?
No, the mine is not operating.
And this man, in front of his colleagues in parliament, he says the view was to get this car moving. And they failed to move it. From 2004 to 2017. 13 solid years.
Unless he meant to dismantle the vehicle and move the parts elsewhere.
The truth is there for everybody to see. Then, the reconstruction of company is on the basis of indebtedness to the state and not on any other ground. Again, if I'm indebted to the state, then the state has a right to approach the court of law. Why would the Minister of Justice become the intermediary?
What would be his interest?
In all this, what would be his interest? He has no interest at all. But in this matter, he has imposed himself. And Clive, just imagine, this minister who has got the tendency of invasion, he imports himself into the affairs of a company. He then represents the company. And nobody knows what gives him this authority. Then see, in any event, it is also in the public interest that companies should be placed under reconstruction, given the fact that it was owing public funds and was a debtor of the state. If I'm a debtor of the state, why do I need to go there? Why do they have laptops and spend more time looking at those than the camera? A silly accessory. We are looking at your comments, and John Kevin, we need to get the comments as we scroll down to see if you have any comments. We can know about it. If we look at the camera, we won't see what you are saying because we are communicating and you may be typing, so we don't have the benefit of your voice. It's not a silly accessory, it's actually a bridge between us and what comments you may have. So there is no mischief intended. Thus, the provisions of the Reconstruction Act are defendable on those bases. So you find that he is now importing public interest
into the whole scenario scheme yes,
of company invasion. He is now saying that I only did this in the interest of the public. And who is the public? It's you and me. We are the public. And Shinamasa is saying he knows what the public thinks and is acting on their behalf. Number D, the Reconstruction Act was duly passed in this August House late last year. If it was late last year, it means the placement of SMM under reconstruction was not supported by an act of parliament. It was supported by a decree because Chinamasa deemed it to be so urgent, convinced his principal, his appointing authority, the president, that the issue of SMM could not wait for the law, and that these creditors, so-called creditors, had no other recourse except to rely on a law, not of public interest, but a law to protect these helpless state bodies. And those state bodies have no say at all, except their affairs move from the offices where they are supposed to be located and they overreach. They go to another office. The Act provides for a procedure to be followed before the reconstruction order is issued in respect of a company, and the whole process of reconstruction is subject to approval, confirmation by the court. Confirmation, imagine, you go to this country, you call it Banana Republic, you arrive there, they say the minister can issue an order that limits your right to property or to anything.
And the court will only be there to confirm, not to determine whether that order should be valid or not. He is saying that the courts approve something already taken place. And the person who is limiting your rights knows fully well that there's a separation of powers, or should be a separation of powers, between the three branches of government: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. In this case, he says the courts now are subsidiary, because they can only approve, they can't disapprove. And the law gives the minister the power to do what the courts must and ought to do, fully knowing that he has incapacitated all the courts because he appoints them. And he knows fully well that his order can never be reversed by a court as long as he's a minister. And that's why justice, Minister of Justice, is a captured ministry. The people who are there actually have no interest in justice except to protect these little secrets. Imagine the public knew that public power was used in this manner. And this is what the minister said in 2005. And 12 years later, he is the last laugh. Accordingly, the provisions of the Reconstruction Act, which more or less are similar to provisions of the Companies Act, again, similar, and he has no idea that the existence of this law effectively means the Companies Act is undermined. Because the two can't coexist. You can't be a company where the state has got reserved rights, and the Companies Act where state organs have equal rights to others. And you say the two mean the same. If it was an animal, then I would need to examine the head, the mind.
And if the two meant the same, why would you need the Reconstruction Act?
You wouldn't need it. But to him, it's not self-evident. To him, he would need, he says it's similar. If it's similar, you will be asking the same question. If it's similar, why? If it ain't broken, why fix it? Why are you so agitated? If they are the same, it means your rights are protected.
Yes.
In the Companies Act. Why create a new law? So Clive, if you are there, if you have a government that manufacture laws, then cause them similar to what already exists. And you want to invest in that country, and the same person, the same actor is now Minister of Finance. Wouldn't you be able to stop, pause, reflect, and go to the minister and say, Minister, please can you educate me? I'm a bit slow. What is this whole act all about? Then you take that act, and then you become part of what? Part of that act of parliament. If you look at, it says which governs and regulates reconstruction schemes, clearly remove any doubt of unconstitutionality. There, again, the minister goes into justifying the unjustifiable. Why is he justifying it? Because he believes that he is above the law. Then we go into executive's involvement in the administration of private companies. Private companies by nature are prescribed. The control and management of private companies is vested in who?
In the directors of the company.
In the directors in the company. Once you separate directors from a company, that act on its own constitutes one of the most fundamental infringement on the Constitution. But the Minister of Justice then
sees no evil.
sees no evil. He is no evil. And he says, I am the law. And I do, and you must do as I say, because I am the law. Honorable Scala asked the Minister of Justice, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs to comment on the executive's involvement in the administration of private companies in the name of national interest, without resorting to the courts as provided for in our bankruptcy laws, citing the case of Shabhani Mashaba mines. The minister in response said, the executive is not in the administration, is not involved in the administration of private companies. So how would the minister know all these facts?
Yes, he happens to be part of executive.
But he is fixed with.
No, it's very much. He seems to be very much knowledgeable about these affairs of the company.
Yeah. Imagine I'm a neighbor.
And you know everything.
I know what happens in the bedroom.
In my bedroom.
Who told you? Huh? What's your interest? This guy does not have to explain. This is common cause I would want to believe. I do not know where the honorable member got that conclusion. I am not aware of any private company that has been meddled with by the executive in the name of national interest. The classical case of SMM cited by Honorable Scala has been misunderstood. Chinamasa is the only one who understands it. The concept of bankruptcy is alive in English law, and the Roman Dutch equivalent used in Zimbabwean law is insolvency as provided for in the Insolvency Act. He's now giving a lecture. SMM has been placed under reconstruction in terms of the Reconstruction of State Indebted Insolvent Companies Act number 27 of 2004, the Reconstruction Act, and not dealt with in terms of the Insolvency Act. But if the company is insolvent,
why not just use the Insolvency Act, which is already there?
Already there.
Instead of going to manufacture another act.
This is now the person. He is acknowledging that there is an Insolvency Act. There was an Insolvency Act, and he was alive to that fact that any creditor would obtain the security that they required and would have sought at the time. But he says, no, I'm not involved in it, but I issued the reconstruction order. And the issue of the reconstruction order is not an executive action. He is a member of the executive. Whatever he does is then classified under this executive what? Action.
Yes.
He sees no evil. He is no evil. Then the reconstruction order is done through the judicial. Imagine he's using against through. I go through, then I arrive. Through the record issued by the Minister of Justice, subject to confirmation by the High Court. Have you ever heard that? Imagine I go to England. Even common law or common sense would actually run away from you and become uncommon sense. That I would go to a court to confirm something that was done outside the confines of the Constitution, of the separation of powers, of the doctrine of equality, of the rights to be had, the protection of the weak. The process of reconstruction of state indebted insolvent companies is not new to Zimbabwe. If it's not new, why bother? Why change it? As the concept is already part of companies' laws in Zimbabwe, if it's already part,
then why have something new?
yeah, why fix a glass that is not broken? Imagine the glass is holding water, and this Minister of Justice is looking to what? To close a leak,
To glue it,
to glue it,
to patch it,
yeah.
where it doesn't need a patch.
This is the strange part. The reconstruction process seeks to restore the viability status of an indebted company and enabling it to settle its debt through a scheme of reconstruction proposed by the administrator, appointed by the minister, not by a liquidator. Yeah? The process saves jobs and livelihoods of employees. And 13 years later, the jobs vanished like a cigarette that is smoked by a madman. You remain with a stub. And this madman is a minister. And he calls himself honorable. Where is the honor in all this nonsense? So I think if Clive, you were blind, please open your eyes. The documents are available. The act is available. You see the mischief in this character called honorable. The Reconstruction Act was tabled before this Augusta House late last year and debated at length. Honorable Scala was part of the Augusta House during the passage of that act, and you will recall that there are clear procedures following in the placement of such companies under reconstruction. What can be clear about theft? As this man is a theft, he dresses it as some kind of reconstructive surgery. And I don't like the way you look like. Now he's a plastic surgeon.
We must do a nose job.
A nose job. He says, I've recreated you. And I know what is good for you. It is therefore incorrect and misleading to the House to suggest that the executive meddles in the affairs of private companies and disregards the relevant legislation in place. The Companies Act is there. The Insolvency Act is there. But you develop legs for what you want to do, so that in the final analysis, what remains is chaos. And chaos that is actually orchestrated by a member of the executive branch of government. Mr. Shinamasa, it is true that the company, Mr. Scala, the administrator who was appointed for the administration of SMMH is, it should be Atharas, but it says Arthur, Kwarazimba, and was appointed directly by yourself, and the question to buy shares on behalf of the government, to have total control of SMM. What is your comment? Imagine a company is insolvent. Then you go and buy the parent of an insolvent company.
Why would you bother?
Then it means there's value. It's not insolvent. Because an insolvent company, it means the value of its liabilities exceeds the value of assets.
Yes.
So your negatives exceed the positives. And in this case, the minister says go and buy the parent that is bankrupt, of a company that is bankrupt. So if I have lost money and the company is insolvent, surely should I be rewarded for insolvency? No. Then Shinamasa said, it is true that the company is referring to acted as the nominee of the government to acquire a controlling interest in TNN, which was a shareholder in SMM. That is correct, and the acquisition was done. So I use state powers to replace the person who is there and go and buy, so that I become the takeover. So if this is not takeover using state power, what would you call state takeover? It's not reconstruction. No more. Because I can't reconstruct something that is positive.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. I can't call something that is insolvent when I know I'm lying. I see no insolvency, but because I need to take over the company, what do I need to do? I need to go through this hoop for the sole purpose
and make believe.
Yeah. For the sole purpose of achieving ulterior objectives. And this is allowed. So, Clive, if you had any doubt that this character involved in this drama, who before Parliament tells Parliament the company is insolvent, but tells the same Parliament, I sent the company, the administrator, to go and buy with positive money a company that is insolvent. I think that's the way it goes. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of.
Yes, unfortunately, we have run out of time, but I hope that individuals who are tuned in are better informed about what actually took place, and we've also drawn fundamental lessons from this conversation itself. So be sure to join us tomorrow, same time, between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. Central African time, as we continue looking at this document and also being able to establish the facts. Honorable Chinamasa, he lied before Pali. Judge for yourself by going through the document, and also go back to the other series that we've had before, so that you have a better understanding of what we are talking about. And the 1873 TV is an initiative of the 1873 Network, a member-based association of forward-leaning individuals who believe that the connected individual, the equipped individual, has got a better chance to life opportunities to inspire new thinking, new outcomes, and new possibilities. The purpose of these conversations is to enable us as individuals to build communities that have shared interests, and more importantly, to build institutions that can best serve us. Till tomorrow, please, let's broaden the conversation. Also participate. If you have any comments, please don't hesitate to comment through the available social media platforms. Twitter, one of them, Facebook, WhatsApp, as well as Skype, which you can connect the 1873 TV. Mr. Mawere, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And viewers, stay logged in the 1873 TV, as we'll be bringing you the 1873 Mentis Seco, and the discussion is also on building communities of shared interest, and focus is on property. Thank you.